Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sleep Knowledge. Lay back, relax, and enjoy. 1. Framing: how reality gets repainted. Facts rarely change minds. Framing does. A policy described as tax relief sounds benevolent. It helps us. The same numbers called budget cuts sound cruel. Framing decides which emotion attaches to identical data. News outlets use it by choosing which image, headline, or adjective to lead with. Companies frame inconvenient truths in positive packaging. 90% success rate, rather than 10% failure. We react to narrative, not math. To see through it, re-express every statement in its opposite frame. Does the emotional tone flip while the numbers stay constant? Then framing, not truth, was driving your reaction. 2. The illusion of choice. Our sense of freedom is fragile. Give people several options, and they feel powerful, even if every option leads to the same gate. Fast food menus, smartphone plans, and political ballots often funnel choice into a single profit center or power structure. Psychologists call this bounded choice. Real decisions inside a cage too small to see. You think, I picked this myself. In reality, the designer picked the boundaries long before you arrived. To test for this, look for sameness behind variety. Do the competing products share one parent company? Do all sides of a debate fund the same lobbyists? The freer something makes you feel, the more closely you should inspect who built the maze. 3. Reciprocity: the debt we didn't ask for. In small tribes, mutual aid kept people alive. You gave food today. I saved you tomorrow. That instinct still pulses in modern life. Give someone something: cookies, compliments, a free trial, and an invisible tether forms. That's why salespeople hand you a bottle of water before pitching, why charities send address labels, and why a manipulative colleague insists, "Don't worry about it," right before reminding you what they sacrificed. We call it kindness, but they call it pipeline building. Healthy generosity ends once given. Manipulative generosity presents a bill later. Ask yourself, if I refused the return favor, would their mood change? The answer reveals motive. 4. Social proof: everyone else can't be wrong. Can they? When a restaurant has a line out the door, we assume the food's good. That ancient instinct kept our ancestors from eating poisonous berries nobody else touched. Today, it's exploited through fake reviews, staged crowds, and inflated follower counts. Marketers call it social proof. Once you think, others like me have already vetted something, your vigilance drops. This is why trending pages, bestseller lists, and as seen on TV stamps exist. They outsource decision-making to the herd. Social proof always feels comforting. It tells you you're not alone. But safety in numbers isn't safety from manipulation. Sometimes the crowd exists purely to herd you. 5. Scarcity. When lack creates lust. If something might disappear, we suddenly need it. That reflex evolved for real scarcity: food, warmth, clean water, not sneakers in limited colors. Marketers hijack that urgency with ticking clocks and "only 2 left" pop-ups. The psychology is simple. Perceived loss feels twice as painful as identical gain feels rewarding. That pain of missing out overrides reason. We act fast, then justify later. You'll know scarcity is fake when absence causes panic rather than practicality. Anything truly valuable, real relationships, genuine opportunities, doesn't need a countdown. 6. Authority bias. When power talks, brains listen. Obedience lets societies function, but blind obedience lets them collapse. Psychologist Stanley Milgram proved people would deliver dangerous electric shocks just because a scientist in a lab coat told them to. The white coat was the manipulation. Today, the costume might be a title slide, a badge, or an expert soundbite on television. These triggers suppress questioning. They must know better. Real authority invites inquiry. Fake authority demands compliance. When credentials replace reasoning, ask who benefits from your silence. 7. The consistency trap. Humans crave internal harmony. We want actions and identity to line up. Manipulators exploit this by securing a small public commitment, knowing we'll twist logic to stay consistent. Sign a petition, post a pledge, make a small donation. Soon you defend the cause even when doubts appear. Cults and marketing funnels both rely on this mechanism. Each minor agreement sticks tighter than the one before, until saying, "I was wrong," feels more painful than continuing. Consistency makes reputation stable but truth fragile. Practice the phrase, "I've changed my mind." It's one of the bravest antidotes to manipulation. 8. Anchoring. The first number wins. Imagine shopping for a suit. The clerk shows you one for $800 before unveiling the $400 version that suddenly looks like a bargain. Nothing changed about the cheaper suit. Your context did. Anchoring plants a mental starting line that drags all later judgments closer. Negotiators, real estate agents, and marketing teams rely on it daily. To resist, form your own anchor in advance. Research a realistic value before exposure, or ask yourself, if I'd heard no prior number, what would this feel worth? Anchoring proves that information sequence, not logic, often shapes conclusion. 9. Emotional hijacking. Feeling before thinking. Your heart rate spikes, breath shortens, vision narrows. That's the body prioritizing survival over analysis. Fear campaigns, guilt tactics, and outrage marketing hijack that reflex. When emotion surges first, reason lags behind by seconds. Advertisers use nostalgia and pride. Politicians prefer fear and anger. Both know rational debate is slow, while emotion sells in milliseconds. When a message demands immediate reaction, donate now, share now, panic now, it's bypassing your brain to reach your buttons. Pause long enough for adrenaline to settle. Understanding lives on the other side of calm. 10. The halo effect. The glow that blinds. We don't judge traits separately. Once we like one quality, we assume the rest are good too. Attractive people seem trustworthy. Confident speakers seem right. Successful companies seem ethical. That single glow halo covers flaws and breeds loyalty without evidence. Advertisers borrow charm through celebrity endorsements. Influencers' aesthetics imply expertise they've never earned. To break the spell, list actual proof, credentials, data, track record. If the admiration shrinks under scrutiny, it was halo, not merit. The halo effect reminds us that charisma sells better than truth, and awareness is the only dimmer switch. 11. Gaslighting. Rewriting your reality. Gaslighting is emotional sabotage disguised as conversation. It starts subtly. You're remembering wrong. You're too sensitive. Then it escalates. Over time, you begin to doubt your judgment, question your memory, and depend on the manipulator's version of events. Abusers, corporations, even governments have used it, denying obvious facts until exhaustion replaces protest. The trick works because we want to be reasonable. We assume disagreement means we misunderstood. Document experiences. Tell trusted outsiders what's happening. If someone insists their truth must replace yours, that person isn't debating. They're colonizing your perception. 12. Love bombing. Weaponized affection. At first it feels miraculous. Constant compliments, long messages, intense attention. Humans crave connection, and love bombing floods your system with dopamine. You bond fast, trust early, commit fully. Then comes the flip. Affection turns conditional. Praise when you comply. Icy distance when you question. The addiction has already set in. Love bombing isn't love. It's accelerated dependency built to ensure control. Healthy attachment grows slowly and survives boundaries. If warmth feels like pressure, It's not chemistry. It's choreography. 13. Triangulation. Divide and dominate. Instead of resolving conflict directly, manipulators introduce a third person, an ally, rival, therapist, co-worker, to control communication through comparison. In relationships, it sounds like, "My ex never argued like this." At work, it's, "Your colleague agrees with me." Each mention chips at your confidence, making you compete for approval you never needed to earn. The manipulator becomes the center everyone revolves around. Counter it by refusing competition. Go straight to the people mentioned and compare notes. Sunlight collapses the triangle instantly. 14. Negging. Insults in disguise. You're pretty smart for someone without formal training. That half compliment hooks self-doubt. You start chasing a redemption compliment that never comes. Negging injects insecurity, so the manipulator controls when you feel valued. It shows up in dating, in cheap leadership styles, even in social banter that keeps one person subtly beneath another. Spot it by listening for jokes that sting twice, once aloud, once later in your reflection. Real affection uplifts. Fake affection destabilizes and laughs when you flinch. 15. Foot in the door. Small yes to big surrender. Psychologists Friedman and Fraser demonstrated this in the 1960s. Homeowners who agreed to place a tiny "Drive Safe" sticker were far more likely later to accept a giant, ugly billboard on their lawn. That's compliance momentum. Marketers, recruiters, and cults rely on it. Minor volunteer tasks that expand into unpaid labor. Small subscriptions that renew into major costs. The rule is simple. Check whether each new request would make sense if you hadn't said yes to the first one. If not, you're walking up a staircase built by someone else. 16. Door in the face. Strategic retreat. Human courtesy makes us want to meet halfway. Manipulators weaponize that. They start with an extreme request, too expensive, too heavy, knowing rejection's inevitable. Then they compromise with the real demand, which now feels moderate. Charities asking for $1,000 before accepting $100 use it. Negotiators do too. It works because contrast, not logic, drives perception of fairness. To bypass it, treat every new proposal as independent, not relative. One no doesn't demand a softer yes. 17. Fear appeals. Scare, then save. Fear narrows attention, disables curiosity, and heightens obedience. Ethical leaders use it rarely. Manipulators build empires on it. They exaggerate threats, name enemies, and present themselves as the lone shield. Advertising thrives on microfear. Smells, wrinkles, germs, loneliness, all solvable for a fee. Politics thrives on macro fear. Infiltrators, collapses, moral decay, all solvable with your vote. Whenever a message terrifies you and then immediately sells comfort, you're not being warned. You're being harvested. 18. Confirmation loops. The mirror maze. Online algorithms notice what outrages or delights you, then feed more of it. Each scroll tightens the loop, showing endless proof that the world matches your beliefs. Dissenting views vanish, leaving perfect confirmation. Comfort feels good. Truth rarely does. Breaking loops requires intentional exposure, blockless news consumption, reading full articles instead of headlines, following people you instinctively dislike but respect intellectually. If every source you see praises your worldview, that's not information. That's sedation. 19. False consensus. Everybody thinks like me. Humans estimate popularity by proximity. Spend enough time among friends who share your taste or ideology, and you'll assume the majority agrees. Manipulators manufacture this illusion through fake polls, bots, and staged applause. Suddenly, dissent looks fringe, and conformity feels rational. When someone insists everyone knows, ask to see data. If discussion ends with mockery instead of evidence, you've found manufactured consensus, not agreement. 20. Information overload, burying the signal. More information doesn't mean more clarity. When facts drown in noise, people default to emotion and authority cues. That's why corporations release 500-page transparency reports no one reads, and governments leak entire document troves during scandal. Volume defeats focus. Manipulators overwhelm, so you give up passing details and accept the headline version. The cure: slow digestion. Choose one source, one data set, one issue at a time. Noise is a choice they train you to love. Silence is how you unlearn it. 21. Repetition. Truth by familiarity. If something feels familiar, the brain labels it safe. Safe soon feels true. Politicians repeat slogans. Companies restate mottos until they sink beneath awareness. The more times you hear, trusted by millions, America's favorite, or studies show, the less you actually verify. Repetition bypasses scrutiny because the mind equates recognition with evidence. Propaganda doesn't need persuasion. It needs patience. Marketers even repeat jingles in public spaces to etch brands straight into emotional memory. The antidote is simple awareness. Whenever a phrase echoes in your head without a source, pause. Someone wrote that echo on purpose. 22. Synthetic urgency. The clock that isn't real. Our bodies treat time pressure as threat. A looming deadline quickens breathing and narrows logic. Manipulators trigger that biology through false countdowns and temporary discounts. Act now. Seats almost gone. Yet most of those clocks reset at midnight. Artificial urgency replaces informed choice with impulse. It's used in news cycles too. Breaking banners for stories days old. Because stress glues attention. Ask, what truly happens if I wait? The answer is usually nothing, except that you regain control. 23. Groupthink. When agreement becomes a cage. Humans fear rejection more than error. In groups, dissent feels dangerous, so silence poses as unity. Manipulative leaders reward upbeat consensus and punish real questioning. We don't do negativity here. Soon, the team stops thinking independently. Maintaining harmony becomes the only goal. That's how disasters pass through entire institutions, unchallenged. Healthy groups argue, self-correct, and tolerate discomfort. If the price of belonging is silence, you're not part of a team. You're part of an echo. 24. Emotional branding. Buying feelings, not things. Advertising rarely shows the product anymore. It shows the life the product promises. Perfume commercials portray liberation, not liquid. Car ads sell identity, not transportation. Brands wrap themselves in friendship, rebellion, community. Whatever word hides commerce. Psychologists call this associative conditioning. When you feel warm nostalgia seeing a logo, you're not recalling its quality. You're remembering the emotion it rented from your past. Owning the product won't reproduce the fantasy. It only resets the craving. Enjoy marketing artfully, but separate art from intent. 25. Outrage farming. The algorithm's favorite meal. Anger lasts longer online than joy or sadness. It's sticky, shareable, and addictive. Social platforms know this. Their engines promote content that spikes outrage because it keeps users scrolling, arguing, and returning for another hit of moral adrenaline. That's why headlines exaggerate and comment sections drip venom. Each flare of hostility is data fuel. Manipulators don't care what side you're on, only that you stay triggered. Before reacting, note the pulse increase. If a post raises your heart rate, close it, breathe, and ask who profits from your rage. 26. Algorithmic addiction. Pulling the lever. Most social apps mimic slot machines. Refreshing the feed is a pull on a digital lever. Hits of novelty release dopamine, teaching your brain to seek unpredictable reward. The strongest conditioning schedule known. Developers track every hesitation, optimizing when to deliver likes or comments so engagement peaks. You become the studied organism in a behavioral lab called the timeline. When boredom feels unbearable without checking a screen, chemical dependence has replaced curiosity. To recover attention, rebuild tolerance for silence. It's detox for the nervous system. 27. The Ben Franklin effect. The favor that fools you. Benjamin Franklin observed that enemies he asked small favors from started liking him later. Doing something kind creates cognitive dissonance. Why would I help someone I dislike? The mind rewrites the story. I must have positive feelings toward them. Manipulators flip that experiment daily. They request tiny tasks to make you invest emotionally. Share a link, take a call, give feedback. Each favor pulls you closer because helping feels cooperative. Remember, goodwill built through favored action can be real, but it doesn't prove virtue on the receiver's part. Be generous consciously, not automatically. 28. The decoy effect. The fake middle ground. Offer 3 choices. 1 cheap, 1 expensive, and 1 deliberately absurd. Most buyers pick the middle option. It feels prudent. That reasonable compromise often earns the seller the highest total profit. The decoy's sole job was to sculpt perception, not sell itself. Politicians use this too, inserting an extreme stance so a milder but still radical policy appears balanced. The trick works because humans measure relatively, rarely absolutely. Defend against it by returning to your priorities before comparing options. Do the math from inside out, not menu down. 29. Fear of exclusion. The tribe trap. Loneliness once meant death, so rejection still feels physical. Advertisers whisper, "Everyone cool wears this. Real fans know. Be part of the movement." Political and religious groups imply salvoyen through belonging. Leaving becomes betrayal. Belonging, founded on fear, keeps you paying dues, financial or emotional, for membership that costs authenticity. True community allows disagreement. Manipulation demands conformity. When inclusion feels conditional on silence, their love is positional power, not connection. 30. Pseudo-sophistication. Flattering your ego. Nothing sells faster than the promise you're smarter than the crowd. Words like artisanal, bespoke, premium, or curated turn ordinary goods into social armor for people afraid of seeming ordinary. It's intellect marketing. Self-esteem by price tag. Luxury industries frame consumption as taste, not vanity. You're discerning, not addicted. But sophistication built on exclusion is still insecurity in designer packaging. When a product flatters you more than it serves you, that's not refinement. It's reverse psychology disguised as elegance. 31. Loaded language. When words vote before you do. Language isn't neutral. Words carry emotion like luggage. Call an immigrant a refugee, and hearts open. Call them an illegal, and walls rise. Label a bill tax relief, and people cheer. Call it defunding schools, and outrage blooms. Every power player knows terminology shapes morality. The phrase arrives first, morality follows behind it. Obedient. Journalists and citizens who guard word choice, guard democracy. Notice whenever intensity appears before evidence. If the language burns hot, someone pre-lit the fuse. 32. False balance. Equal time for unequal truths. A televised debate between a scientist and a conspiracy theorist looks fair, but secretly distorts reality. One stance is supported by decades of evidence, the other by anecdotes and charisma. Media often stage these pairings to appear impartial while maintaining controversy. Controversy keeps viewers hooked. Manipulators thrive on this illusion. If audiences assume truth sits halfway between extremes, bad faith arguments gain legitimacy. Balance is noble only when the scales are honest. When weight of evidence tilts heavily toward one side, treating both as equal isn't fairness. It's misinformation wearing manners. 33. Omission and context stripping. Half-truth, whole lie. You can warp perception more elegantly by removing context than by inventing fiction. Quoting a sentence without its next line, cropping a chart's time frame, or showing cause without consequence, all shift meaning while appearing factual. Propagandists depend on readers' short attention spans. The missing detail hides just past the scroll bar. Defend yourself by tracing any claim back to its origin. Read full paragraphs, not pull quotes. Truth survives context. Lies suffocate in it. 34. Guilt as a leash. After all we've done for you, don't you care about our friendship? That's guilt as leverage, the oldest social currency. Manipulators frame refusal as moral failure, turning personal boundaries into betrayal. Family members, charities, even workplaces wield virtue to trap you. Healthy guilt sparks repair. Toxic guilt enforces obedience. Ask whether you're at fault or merely afraid of disappointment. You're allowed to stay kind while saying no. 35. The victim costume, power through pity. Self-pity can be performance art with high returns. Aggressors discover that claiming persecution disarms criticism. Any challenge looks cruel. Whole movements, media figures, and toxic partners wield vulnerability as camouflage. Victimhood becomes currency, Being attacked gains loyalty and donations. True victims seek relief. Professional victims seek audience. Authenticity can be measured by goals, healing or spotlight. When tears show up exactly on cue, pay attention to timing, not moisture. 36. Exploitation as empowerment. Modern manipulation rarely oppresses openly. It markets slavery as self-improvement. Multi-level marketing calls itself entrepreneurship. 24/7 grind culture rebrands exhaustion as pride. Even abusive relationships declare, "We make each other stronger." The trick reframes burden as choice. If you suffer, you must simply not be working hard enough. Real empowerment expands agency. Fake empowerment demands loyalty. If freedom costs your sleep, savings, or sanity, that's not independence. It's indenture with better branding. 37. Information asymmetry. The fog of fine print. Knowledge gaps create power gaps. Financial institutions, tech companies, and bureaucracies bury critical terms in legalese because confusion is control. When you don't fully understand, you default to trust or fatigue. Manipulators thrive on that surrender. Transparency should mean clarity, not quantity. 5 clear sentences beat 50 pages of jargon. When a contract or policy feels unreadable, remember, anything truly fair could be explained plainly. Obscurity is often evidence of intent. 38. Bait and switch. Promise now, pivot later. A manipulator's favorite rhythm. Advertise one thing, deliver another. Free trial becomes auto-billing. Community project becomes data harvest. Supportive partner becomes controller once trust forms. It works because commitment clouds skepticism. Once invested, people defend the scam to protect their ego. Healthy operations welcome scrutiny even after sign-up. Whenever terms change suddenly, don't salvage, re-evaluate. Leaving early is cheaper than staying fooled. 39. Sunk cost loyalty. Throwing good time after bad. No one likes admitting waste, so we double down on loss. Gamers keep playing long past fun. Investors hold failing stocks. Citizens cling to false leaders. They've sacrificed too much to quit. Manipulators encourage this psychology by thanking you for your commitment, reminding you what you've given. That debt becomes leash. Reset the frame. The past cost is gone regardless. The only rational question is, does this deserve more of me now? Freedom lives one decision past the sunk cost. 40. Adult peer pressure. Grown-up conformity. Peer pressure doesn't vanish at graduation. It graduates with you. Now it hides under respectability. industry standards, culture fit. Thought leaders say. Whole corporations, political tribes, and friend groups maintain uniformity through subtle rewards, likes, invitations, promotions, for staying inside their consensus. It feels cooperative, but underneath lies the same teenage fear: exclusion. Critical thinkers learn to stand politely apart, staying sociable without surrendering perspective. If belonging requires pretending, that's not networking. It's quiet self-erasure. 41. False intimacy, the one-way relationship. Influencers, streamers, and celebrities speak into cameras as if speaking only to you. They reveal small imperfections, messy hair, late-night thoughts, to feel authentic. Your brain, wired for face-to-face empathy, treats that as friendship. That's a parasocial relationship, emotional closeness in one direction. Manipulators, online or in person, leverage that warmth to sell products, ideas, or loyalty. Enjoy the connection, but remember, they don't know you back. Real intimacy requires reciprocity. Without it, you're giving trust to a projection. 42. Flattery of intelligence, the smart people club trap. You're too smart to fall for what they believe. That line massages ego while isolating you from correction. Flattery softens skepticism. Pride wants to keep feeling exceptional. Con artists, cult leaders, and pundits gather followers by praising their discernment. Only the awake understand. It's social engineering via self-esteem. Genuine wisdom invites humility. Manipulation feeds superiority. When someone compliments your intellect right before presenting secret truth, tighten your grip on doubt. 43. Emotional debt, the ledger of kindness. Manipulators keep mental spreadsheets of every favor they've ever done. They recall details, not from affection, but for future billing. Remember who helped you get that job? After everything I've done. This debt creates obligation heavier than contract. Healthy generosity ends once offered. Toxic generosity accrues interest. It transforms gratitude into guilt. If kindness converts to leverage the moment you assert boundaries, erase your balance and walk away. Debt collectors of emotion never stop charging. 44. False transparency, the honesty performance. I'm just being honest often precedes manipulation, not sincerity. Oversharing secrets, confessing flaws, or speaking with abrasive realness lowers your defenses by mimicking authenticity. Politicians, influencers, and abusers use disclosure as camouflage. If they admit weaknesses first, you'll assume the rest is genuine. Real transparency gives clarity. Fake transparency buys credibility. When openness feels theatrical, or timed to distract from wrongdoing, it's not honesty. It's stagecraft. 45. Weaponized statistics, numbers that lie beautifully. Numbers look impartial, yet few tools lie so effectively. Start the y-axis at 90 instead of 0, and minor changes look explosive. Quote, relative risk doubles your chance, but hide that the base rate rose from 1 to 2%. Corporations, politicians, even health advocates cherry-pick denominators to sculpt emotion, fear, hope, urgency. We assume we can't argue with math, but we can question presentation. Ask for absolute numbers and timescales. Data that resists translation probably resists truth as well. 46. Control disguised as care. I only restrict you because I love you. In families, relationships, and governments, control cloaks itself as protection. Rules framed as for your good distort nurturing into surveillance. True care expands choices. Counterfeit care limits them. Manipulators define safety so narrowly that freedom itself looks dangerous. Test protection by consequence. If care leaves you smaller, quieter, or more dependent, it's not shelter. It's cage work, painted gentle. 47. Desensitization. The erosion of alarm. Every shocking image loses power with repetition. Show tragedy continuously, and horror turns ordinary. Corruption becomes background noise. That's desensitization, gradual numbness that enables manipulation through fatigue. When moral overload makes you scroll past suffering, the system succeeds. Recover sensitivity through pacing, curate media, rest emotion, and occasionally unplug. Empathy requires maintenance, not martyrdom. 48. Us versus them narratives. Tribal addiction. Humans bond fastest over common enemies. Leaders exploit this. Politicians, influencers, even brands frame outsiders as threats, so followers feel righteous unity. Binary storytelling, heroes versus villains, simplifies chaos into comfort. Tribes reward outrage, not accuracy, because outrage binds tighter. Whenever loyalty demands hating someone you've never met, you're not being educated, you're being recruited. Truth almost never needs an enemy. It only needs evidence. 49. Normalizing the absurd. The stepwise slide. No regime, company, or cult begins extreme. It drifts there slowly. Outlandish claims enter conversation as jokes, then as just opinions, then as policy. The audience, acclimated inch by inch, forgets where normal used to stand. This is the Overton window shift, the transformation of shock to shrug. Guardrails are your memory. keep old headlines, note prior outrage levels. If you catch yourself saying, "Well, I guess that's just how things are," pause. It wasn't once. 50. Cognitive fatigue, exhaustion as control. Tired people don't argue. They comply. Modern life floods attention with alerts, debates, and emergencies until exhaustion feels permanent. When mental bandwidth shrinks, short-term relief, agreeing, buying, obeying, beats long-term reasoning. Authoritarians, corporations, and click farms all exploit this. Keep citizens or consumers too drained to analyze. Your clearest safeguard is rest. Sleep, quiet, and boredom rebuild critical distance, the space inside which free will operates. Guard your energy as fiercely as your information. Both are finite. Conclusion. Seeing the strings. Influence is unavoidable. Human connection runs on it. Manipulation begins the moment influence hides intent. When someone guides your feelings for their ends, not your good. Across these 50 tactics, one pattern repeats. They rush you, flatter you, frighten you, or exhaust you until reflection feels optional. The antidote is slowness. Time to ask, who benefits if I believe this? Power doesn't need to shout. It only needs you too tired or too certain to question. So take back your pause, your curiosity, and your patience. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share. And remember, once you name manipulation, it loses its magic, and the illusion of control snaps right where it began, in your awareness.